that this is how it's supposed to be. Whereas before, I felt like, what would it have to take for me to live in my truth back then, which I felt like I couldn't.
I felt like crying, so I turned on NSYNC and I belted out "This I Promise You" like nobody was watching. It turns out several people were watching, but whatever. Welcome to a conversation between two friends.
This is Alice.
And I'm David.
And this is Truthfully Yours.
We are by no means experts or teachers, just speaking honestly within the bounds of friendship. If you found your way here, maybe there's something in that honesty meant for you too.
We invite you to lean in, and perhaps you'll recognize your own journey in ours.
Alice reads old journal entries, prayers she wrote to God. She barely recognizes the woman who wrote them, but looking back, she realizes something. Her prayers were answered, just not how she expected. David finds a note from 10 years ago and sees how much he's changed. A conversation about growth, fear, and becoming yourself. This is Truthfully Yours. Now here's Alice and David.
So a few weeks ago, David, I had this thought that I want to start getting rid of things that I don't use anymore, starting with my desk, wiping things down because some of the shelves are dusty. And I have at least a dozen journals that I've had since I've been married. And I never, ever, ever go back and read the entries, ever. But my journal entries, they're there as more like prayers and for me to process thoughts, but really it's for an audience of one. So I would say they are more like prayers. And what happens is when I do write an entry, there is time I take to pray and meditate, and then I write down at the bottom of all my entries what I feel like God is speaking to my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just close it and I never reread them again. So I don't even know if any of these prayers have been answered. So I'm going through these journal entries, and it's interesting because all the things that I'm feeling as I'm reading is just such a mixed bag of emotions. And there was an entry from 2012 that I read, and I won't read you the entry, but basically it was at a time I felt like I was in a really low place. And I wrote down all the things that I was really frustrated with and the things that I really wanted. I don't know if the word is to be healed from more than it was things that I really struggled with myself. Like some of the things that I wrote were things like, I don't want to have to keep on bending myself for others. That I just want to be me and I just want to be liked for me. And I would underline it. And that theme came up so much during this entry that when I reread it, obviously it was very important. And it kind of shed light that I didn't feel like I was being seen for me, or maybe I felt like I couldn't be me, that I wouldn't be loved for me, that I wouldn't be liked for me. And what was interesting about that journal entry was I was actually having a discussion with my husband about this. We've had this discussion multiple times in the last month, right? That I feel like now that I'm in my 50s, I'm kind of in this era where I just don't give, a crap about anything these days. And it's really hard to rattle me. But one of the things that I feel like I'm fighting for myself right now, within a lot of the relationships in my immediate circle of influence, is this idea of I'm just going to be me. So I'm rereading this entry, which was basically I would say a cry from my heart that maybe I felt like I wasn't being seen correctly. And so rereading it and seeing this now, Rob is so sweet because he wants to try to understand how I'm feeling about myself and how I'm kind of thinking about my future and the world in general. I just want to live my truth.
Right.
There have been so many times I wasn't living my truth. So we perform for this group of people or for our jobs or for whomever. And so I was telling him hey, look at this entry that I wrote and look at this, entry now and what we've been talking about. And I think it finally clicked in his head. I wasn't just making all of this stuff up right now. I think he realized that this had been going on for a very long time that I felt like this. And reading the most current entry and how I know how I feel about myself right now, I felt really proud that I had become the person I so desperately wanted to live in my truth, to live in the freedom of that truth. I guess it's the freedom of that truth, right? And stand firm in it and know that this is how it's supposed to be. Whereas before, I felt like, what would it have to take for me to live in my truth back then, which I felt like I couldn't. And a lot of it was fear-based, probably this fear of not being accepted or valued or whatnot.
Was there anything about kind of rereading some of this that surprised you about your younger self?
Yeah, I think the thing that most changed rereading these things, all of these entries are like these letters to God, right? They're not letters, they're more conversations, because there's times where I'll write like a paragraph and I'll pause and I'll pray and I'll meditate. And then I write down what I feel like God is trying to tell me, and I write that down. And I don't question at all what I'm hearing, what I'm seeing. And then I respond. And so it's actually a back and forth conversation. But I always believe my relationship with God is deeply personal, and it is relational. It's not like this where we just offer up our prayers and, hope He answers. I don't have that kind of relationship. But reading these older entries, there is a pattern of the way I communicate with Him that gave me the cringe a little bit. Even though I always think of Him as like a loving Father, where it gave me cringe was I still felt a lack of worthiness to Him in the way I wrote. Like, oh, but I'm a terrible person and this is why this probably happened. And it's very interesting, and that's the person I would say I was probably most intimate with in terms of sharing my thoughts with. Because if I'm like that with the most intimate person, how was I like with everyone else back then, David? And that bothers me because now I don't talk to Him like that at all.
So there's a part of you that kind of, in a way, glorified suffering or kind of thought that any kind of joy was wrong. But yeah, so it's interesting that you were able to kind of grow out of that. Alice, you've inspired me. I found a note on my phone that I wrote 10 years ago. 10 years ago. So this is the night after the 2016 election. So I wrote, so I was driving home the other night, sad and frustrated and scared with the direction that our country, by the will of a minority, had decided to take. I felt like crying. You're going to love this part. I felt like crying, so I turned on NSYNC and I belted out "This I Promise You" like nobody was watching. It turns out several people were watching, but whatever. And then there's this. And then I realized something about myself. The David from 10 years ago, so 20 years ago now, would have internalized this sadness and, quote, given it to Jesus. And mentally, this way of seeking healing would have driven an even further wedge from those in my community that disagreed with me. I said, this is not a shot at Christians. This is just me coming to terms with how much I've grown as a man. Growing up in a, quote, reality that told me that being gay was a sin against God and nature forced me to internalize a lot of things. After coming out, it took a long time for me to be okay with shaking off that, quote, reality. That was all that I had known for 20 years. But it is possible for people to learn, to grow, and to change. And today I'm so thankful that I have chosen family and friends that fill my life with such happiness.
Today, this morning, I opened up another journal because in the process of looking through the journals, I unshelved all my journals and I have to put them back. And I found this entry from 2016, the end of 2016. And a lot of times I'll do like sketches of how I feel because sometimes I get like visual pictures in my head and I want to remember the visual picture. And so I'll draw it. And I just felt like it was so beautiful. But this picture, can you see that?
Yeah.
This picture right here? Okay. So it says winter on top, right? And on the bottom, right here, there's like a bunch of roots coming down. And I said, me, this is me, right? So winter, there's tree that has no leaves, no signs of life. Because, I think nature speaks to the both of us. This is what I wrote. And remember, I talked about like my entries being letters to God. I said, what a beautiful reminder of how the outside appearance of my life looks dead and dormant. Winter has come and her elements harsh. But Lord, your plans for me is like a winter perennial. From the outside, it looks dead, but beneath the surface, you have hidden me so I can grow deep down. So when spring arrives, I can arise, a new, established, multiplied, and expanded person. And I was thinking, oh gosh, I wrote that so long ago. And it's such a good reminder because I felt like it was speaking to me again. Even though we're entering spring and I felt like this winter was a little bit harsh for me, that it's all good that there's so much stuff happening underneath the surface that we can't even see.
Interesting, yeah.
And then spring is coming. And when it comes, you see signs of life again. It's going to be multiplied. Blooms multiply. We're expanded. And so I've been reading these old entries today, and it's been really interesting to reread them, to see the growth, because sometimes I feel like we oftentimes don't see our own growth. Like we know that we've grown as a person, but we don't really see it because it happens at such a slow pace. It's kind of like when you're a little baby, you don't see yourself growing, but from the time you're a newborn, even 2 weeks later, you're a little bit more fuller, and then 2 months later, then 2 years, and so forth. But I just feel like I have to remind myself that all of this stuff takes time.
I think I need to break out in like Christian hymn song right now. Our God is an awesome God, He reigns from heaven on earth.
If you enjoyed today's conversation, subscribe to Truthfully Yours wherever you get your podcasts. New episodes weekly on Thursdays. We'd love for you to share this with someone who might need to hear it. For more about the show and Alice and David, visit truthfullyyours.com.